You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. By going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com, you can make this possible. All right, today marks the 75th anniversary of D-Day. Of course, that was when the Allied invasion of Normandy. More than 9,000 Allied soldiers were killed or wounded. But their sacrifice allowed more than 100,000 soldiers to defeat Adolf Hitler in Germany. And now, of course, mainstream media, they've been covering this story all week. Donald Trump is overseas, along with many other American leaders. But you have not seen lots of attention focused on the role that black soldiers played in that battle. Joining me right now is retired Army General Kip Ward, and also the author of the book, The Forgotten, Linda Herview. That particular book is about, of course, black soldiers and World War and D-Day. And before we go to them, hear the words of some of the soldiers who actually served.
My name is William Garfield Abney. I was with the 320th Barrage Balloon Battalion.
My name is Arthur Guest, 3451 9688.
One reason I ain't had no reason to go fighting because the American wasn't that good a place to fight for, not for a black man.
We was all trained to handle these balloons. You would send those balloons up on the cable and that lit it up and bring it in. It was something like a canister bomb, and it would pull the bomb right down into the wing of the plane, and boom, the plane would blow up.
We certainly thank all soldiers who served in the United States military for their sacrifice in all of our wars, including World War II. But we specifically wanted to focus on these black soldiers. Kip Ward, you're one of the very few African Americans to ever attain the rank of 4-star general in the United States Army. And when you think about what these brothers went through, and these were brothers who went through this at that particular time, they were fighting on two battlefields. They were fighting for America against Hitler, and were fighting against America because of racism at the same time.
You know, Roland, absolutely. First of all, good to be with you again. And, you know, those men, and in some cases women, who served during all of our nation's wars, as you've indicated, had many reasons for serving. Clearly, one of those predominant reasons was maybe by doing what they did to show America that they, too, were men, women, worthy of everything that this country had to offer. By going into battle, they could achieve those freedoms here at home. Certainly, as we know, wasn't always the case.
And Kip, and when I was, again, so I love the people on social media because we operated in real time. So when I said the men, there were no women who were on the beach in Normandy that particular day. So I was specific to that because that's what we're dealing with. When we talk about what black folks went through. We talk about, again, here you are wearing a patch, we representing the United States, saying, pledging allegiance to fight for your country, knowing full well that when you go back home, you are going to have to encounter a different conversation. And over history, the role that these black soldiers played on D-Day, often not talked about.
They certainly understood that. Coming back home, knowing that what they fought for abroad wasn't going to be available to them at home. But just as today, the hope for a better tomorrow was a motivation for many of them. But by serving, maybe things would change for not necessarily them, but for those who would come behind them. And so their courage demonstrated in so many ways valiantly because they fought selflessly, and fully knowing that what may be available for them wouldn't be there. But maybe by doing what they did, it would be something that those who would come behind them, other black Americans, could in fact have for themselves.
Can you share with us, in your time in the Army, that you crossed paths with any of those soldiers who fought on D-Day, those black soldiers?
As you pointed out, no women to be sure, and only about 2,000. Unfortunately, many of them have gone on. I did meet one who has now passed on, who was in the anti-aircraft balloon barrage battery. Now, that was a group of men who were on that initial assault there. It was the 320th Anti-Aircraft Barrage Battalion. And so I met one of those gentlemen, in fact, during the 60th anniversary of D-Day, when I was the Deputy Commander General of the United States Army Europe. And I was over there in charge of the European part of the commemoration. And he was, in fact, present during that time. I believe there's only one of those men still living today.
When we think about, again, this history, when we think about black soldiers, I remember when Bill O'Reilly had the audacity to question Colin Kaepernick, saying he needed to read his book about World War II to understand patriotism. And I chose to actually read off a litany of books that Bill needed to read to understand black patriotism. To me, there is no greater patriotism to fight for a country that didn't love you.
Absolutely. I mean, as I said, this was the height of selflessness in doing something for a country that didn't return it, but with the hopes that over time, other black Americans would be able to take advantage of the rights, privileges that this country provides as its ideal.
Last question for you, Kip. What would you say to somebody right now why they should join the U.S. Army? Why should they should join the U.S. military?
There are multiple reasons. There is no single reason why anyone would serve. And as I talk to youngs today who are currently serving, they're serving for a multiplicity of reasons. For better gain, something for educational benefits, for love of country. These men and women serve today for reasons that are personal, that are societal, wanting to give back in some cases, wanting to better themselves in other cases, for the love of country in some of those same cases. And so there is no single reason why young black men and women serve, for a multitude of reasons. And thankfully, they do continue to serve because it is, in fact, that service that over time I think is important that this nation will ultimately come to understand, acknowledge, and have huge respect for. It's there in some degree, clearly more to go.
All right, then. General Kip Ward, always good talking to you, man. Say hello to the wife.
I shall. We'll do that for sure. Thanks very much.
I appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. And folks, just some history. Kip Ward, he was the first commander of AFRICOM. That was the 5th command that was created under President George W. Bush. He was the first commander of AFRICOM, and again had achieved the rank of 4-star general. Also, we're scheduled to have Linda Herview on the show. Guys, put the cover of her book up so I can let folks know. And that if you don't have it, just go to my iPad. The book is called Forgotten: The Untold Story of D-Day's Black Heroes at Home and at War. Guys, can y'all fix this? I don't know why you're not being able to see it. So fix that, please, because I'm showing it's connected right here. And this is important. I'm going to go out panel real quick. This is important because, again, when I went off on Bill O'Reilly, unfortunately, a lot of people who have no idea about our impact in the military. There was a campaign called Greg, the Double V campaign, that was going on at the same time, that launched by the Pittsburgh Courier, picked up by the Chicago Defender and others. It started in World War I, victory at home and victory abroad.
That's right, because of the lessons we learned in World War I. Black folks have fought in the American Revolution as many blacks fought for the British as fought for the Americans, because we didn't care who won. We were trying to get free. I appreciate what that elder said. He said, you know, I don't know if I had really a reason to fight. My father and 3 of his brothers, 3 of the 4 men in his side of the family were drafted into World War II. My Uncle Virgil fought for the Red Ball Express. Those were the brothers they sent out to refuel the tanks. If a German sniper hit that thing, they went up in flames. Emmett Till's father was executed by the United States military. He's buried in a segregated cemetery in France, and that ring that was on his finger at the time, that's how they identified his son's body in Mississippi, because he was convicted of the crime of sleeping with white women.
So it's called the paradox.
Julian, hold on. Great finish.
No, the reason I'm just saying this is that the books like Forgotten, another book called Liberators. We talked about Sister Leah Chase, Love, and Patton. General Patton, the 761st Tank Battalion, those were some of the first brothers who went in and broke into Auschwitz and the German to the concentration camp for the Jews. We are all up in this history, and finally, as you said, Double V, and you've talked about this many times, victory here, meaning what? We ain't going to halfway world to fight white supremacists and come back here and get lynched. That triggered the civil rights movement when those soldiers came back.
Julian, hold on one second. Go to my iPad, please. I want to show you that. The book is called Patton's Panthers, of the African-American 761st Tank Battalion in World War II by Charles Sasser.
So I wrote a book after September 11th called The Paradox of Loyalty.
Yes.
The subtitle was The African-American Response to the War on Terrorism. It really looked at that paradox of us fighting for the right to fight. Black people fought for the right to fight, to be considered Americans, even as we were not considered Americans. Black men marched down 125th Street in Harlem in 1919, saying, we are veterans, we want to be respected. And those veterans, many of them were lynched in uniform because they dared step up and say, we have the right to our American privileges. And so while I definitely respect our elder, who was quite eloquent, I think that we also, as we heard the Orange Man talking on D-Day,
I didn't listen to it, but go ahead.
well, I listened to a little bit of it.
None of it.
Because I'm an insomniac, so
I listened
whatever.
to none of it.
He's talked about, can we all be united? No, Maryland farmer, we cannot be united when you basically disunite us.
Fake bone spurs.
The fact is that we have never looked at the contributions of black people to this country. And I would just lift up the name of Dr. Olivia Hooker, who was in the Coast Guard, the last survivor of Tulsa, who fought to be, she wanted to be a Navy woman. They wouldn't accept her. She went to the Coast Guard. Our people, many of our people, not me, but many of our people are so patriotic that we will fight for the right to be American, and America continues to reject us.
Amisha, go ahead.
That was going to be something I touched on. I think that having our patriotism questioned as black people because we want to protest, because we want to exercise our constitutional rights, because we want to be able to walk down the street and not be accosted, that's a problem. Because we've had African Americans serve in every major military advancement that this country has ever known. We have served as spies, we have served valiantly and died on the front lines and not been respected coming back. Our families have been left to perish. And to fight for a country and to preserve that, to have the idea full-fledged, to believe in democracy, even when you don't ever see it fulfilled at home, I think that has to be something that America takes into consideration. Working in a news station, today there was nonstop coverage of D-Day. Period. Did not see one single contribution of an African American.
And nor make the distinction that not all soldiers were equal during D-Day.
All right, folks, back to that Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Hey guys, they're back. MarijuanaStock.org has another great investment opportunity. If you were lucky enough to invest in their last crowdfunding campaign, you know they raised a lot of money in just a few months investing in legal marijuana farms. Now, those initial investors now own shares of a publicly traded company. Folks, the last time, again, a lot of y'all missed it. Y'all were emailing me. Oh, what about it? Well, guess what? Now they have a new investment opportunity that is as good, if not even better than last. I'm talking about industrial hemp CBD. Now, for those who don't know, the hemp plant is the cousin to marijuana. with a much higher concentration of CBD, which means hemp CBD gives you all of the benefits of marijuana without getting you high. Until recently, hemp farming was practically illegal in the U.S. and heavily regulated by the DEA. However, the 2018 Farm Bill changed all of that, making it legal to grow hemp CBD in the U.S. and creating one of the largest commodities worldwide. They need land to grow all of the plants. This makes for an incredible investment opportunity, and that's where our good friends at 420 Real Estate come in. Now, first of all, they're black. I'm saying that because a lot of African Americans are not in. Now, we were hurt by marijuana laws, and now white folks are benefiting financially from the change to those very laws. Well, the business model of 420 Real Estate is simple. They buy land that supports hemp CBD grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. That's right, they are hemp CBD landlords. And you can get in on the action. You can invest in this crowdfunding campaign for as little as $200 up to $10,000. Like I said, I'm not missing out on this, and neither should you. You should invest. Go to marijuanastock.org, marijuanastock.org. You can get in the game and get in the game now.
Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.